This is not the review I thought it was going to be. I fully expected to fall in love with this Islander Port Jefferson GMT. In fact, I was hesitant to review this watch because I thought it'd mean adding yet another watch to my personal collection. But as it turns out, that's not the case. Now, a lot of people out there are going to buy and love this watch. Unfortunately, I am just not one of those people. I'll share with you why, but first, let's go over the basics. Now, this watch might look familiar to you, and that's because this design was originally offered as a three-handed model, and now it's back as a GMT, and it's currently available at Island Watch for $579 US. It comes in 5 different colorways. We got maroon, blue, green, black, and this white version. Now, as you would expect for that price, it is what is often referred to as a Travelers GMT with a Miyota 9075 movement. Now, I'll leave a link in the description of this video so you can check it out for yourself. Now, let's get started with this 2-week review. Case finishing. The construction diameter and lug-to-lug is the same as on the 3-handed version of this watch that I reviewed a few months ago. Now the case here is 316L stainless steel. We have a diameter of 40 millimeters and a lug-to-lug distance of 48 millimeters. The main difference between this and the 3-handed model is that the overall thickness is now 13.5 millimeters instead of 11.5. 2 extra millimeters to accommodate for the GMT movement. Now that seems like more than a fair trade-off on that one. So it's been over 2 weeks now that I've been wearing this watch, and I am just now starting to put this review together. And for the first time, I have stopped, looked at the specs, and realized that this watch I've been wearing is actually 2 millimeters thicker than the original 3-handed watch. In all my time testing this watch, I never gave that added thickness a second thought. Someone could have easily told me that it was the same thickness and I would have believed it. What I'm saying here is that this GMT watch doesn't wear any larger than the original non-GMT version. The case finishing here is the same as on the 3-handed model. Tight uniform brushing on top and sides of the case. A thin high polish on the chamfered edge of the case. And beautifully integrated with the bracelet. The bottom of the case has been given the same chamfered edge, making it as 100% smooth to the touch as on the top. Now, there are not a lot of brands out there that would give that level of attention to detail to the bottom of a case. Islander has always stood out for their fit and finish. Now, I've said it before, but Mark doesn't just sell watches. That man loves watches, just like you and I do. On the back side of its watch, we have the same screw-down case back found on the non-GMT version. Around the case, we have sapphire crystal, 150 meters. Now, in my opinion, this is the nicest case back I've seen on a watch. The way the logo is integrated into the lighthouse theme, and the way that the lighthouse theme ties into the company name. A while back, Mark held a competition for case back designs, and this was the winning design. I don't know the name of the person who actually designed it, but it is such a nice, smart design. For the case finishing on this watch, I'm going to score it a plus. Bracelet strap. The beads of rice bracelet that comes with this watch is 20 millimeters at the lugs and tapers down to 18 at the sign clasp. We have solid links and solid end links, while the bracelet itself is held together with screw pins. Now, for reference, I removed 4 of the links to fit my 7-inch wrist, and there are still 5 more links that could be removed. Now, one difference between this GMT model and the 3-handed version is the clasp. While they both have a milled scissor section, this GMT model comes with a double push-button release clasp with 4 micro adjustments. This bracelet comes with negative end links and articulates at the case. That means you don't have to worry about it wearing larger than expected. For the supplied metal bracelet, I am going to score it as a plus. Movement caliber. Inside the case, we get to what is an important distinction. Here, we have the Myoto 9075 movement, making this a Travelers GMT. Now that movement has 24 joules, 28,800 beats per hour, a 42-hour power reserve, it does hack, and it does hand wind. The accuracy is -10 to +30 seconds. I won't go into all the details of a Travelers GMT versus an office GMT. Mark already made a great video explaining that. Instead, I'll simply point out one key difference of a Travelers GMT is the ability to adjust the hour hand independently from the GMT hand. Meaning, when you land in a different time zone, you can move the hour hand forward or backwards to match your new time zone, all while the GMT hand stays on your home time zone. But of course, there are pluses and minuses to everything in life. And unfortunately, that includes GMT watches. So here we are on day one. Now I was pretty excited to get this watch in for review. I have never had a GMT watch before. And I thought maybe a Travelers GMT like this might be my new go-to watch when traveling. Well, one thing I learned on day one, there is no quick set date feature on a Travelers GMT. I didn't know this. I've never had a GMT. To set the dates, you need to move the hour hand around and around the dial. Not gonna lie, it might prove to be an issue for me here. Granted, I'm going to be wearing this watch every day for 2 weeks, so I don't need to set the date more than once. But now I'm wondering, how would I feel about having a watch in my collection that doesn't have a quick set date feature? And the answer, I don't know, because I always set the date when I wear an automatic watch. After wearing this watch for a full week, my excitement for a GMT, it's died down. And here's why. I'm not a pilot and I don't fly often for work. Truth is, my traveling is essentially limited to twice a year, and that being when I go on vacations. Originally, I set the second time zone of this watch to London, and then I decided to set it to Rome simply because I love Italy. Such a great place. I thought it'd be fun to track another time zone. But now, starting week 2 of testing this watch, I'm left wondering whether or not I need a GMT in my collection. Now, to be clear, that is nothing against this particular watch, or even one style of GMT versus the other. It is just the realization that for me personally, I only have need to track a second time zone twice a year. You might be thinking, solution seems obvious. Just get out and start traveling a lot more. You know, I'm not against the idea. Maybe I could become a test pilot. I don't know. For the movement, I'm going to score it a plus. Now the 9075 is part of Myoto's 9 series and is what they refer to as part of their premium automatic movements. Watch face. Moving on to the face of the watch. You know, I think it's important to mention here that I specifically got this color in for review because I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I loved it as a three-handed watch, and I think it looks as nice or possibly even better as a GMT. The way the color of the GMT hand picks up the orange around the minute track, the date window, and down the center of the hands, it is just a brilliant use of color, in my opinion. It keeps the dial well balanced, and that is coming from someone that just during this 2-week review of testing decided a GMT is not for me. Now, I still think that it looks beautiful all the same. Around the outside, we have a bi-directional 24-hour bezel with a satisfying click to it. Now this 24-hour bezel could be used to track a third time zone, if you have use for that kind of thing. Now that bezel is separated from the dial with a high polished metal. I always find this approach to add a level of distinction to a watch. The rectangle shaped indices with their U-shaped lume keeps this watch from feeling like just another dive watch. Their uniqueness is part of the appeal of this watch. As much as I love the look of this watch, there are a few things here that I wish were different. So here we are on day 4, and there are 2 things that I've noticed. I should start by saying that this is the color I originally wanted for the 3-handed watch. But by the time I finally got around to buying one, they were sold out. So I was pretty excited when they released this again as a GMT. Now that I have it in my hands, here is the things I've noticed. Now the first thing is that the contrast on the indices, they do not match the same intensity as the contrast on the hands. The hands really pop off that dial. The yellow and the orange color within the hands just pop. Where the indices, they are a lot more muted. At times it almost feels like they are behind another piece of glass. But of course, they are not. Now I wish the gray indices were darker to make the blue color in the middle stand out and match the intensity found on the hands. A lot of people might never notice. And some people, they might notice and they never think twice about it. But unfortunately, I noticed. Now the second thing that I wish was different, is the minute track. Now in my original review of the 3-handed version of this watch, I said there were no individual minute ticks. Well, I was wrong. In extreme close-up photography, you can see there are some lines here that extend all the way across the minute track. And those are the individual minute markers. Here you can see that the minute hand is pointed at the 33rd minute. This is impossible to see at arm's length. On top of that dial is a single domed sapphire crystal with inner AR coating. Now, just as with my other Port Jefferson watch, I've had no issues with reflections after wearing this watch for 2 weeks. My only substantial criticism in this category is that minute track. But everything else here is top notch in my book. So I'm scoring the watch face as a plus. The lume. The lume here is a combination, with indices and hands being coated in C3 Superluminova, while the bezel has been treated with BG-W9, which means the lume on the dial glows green, while the bezel is blue. Now in my everyday testing, I had no issues telling time at 4 a.m. For the lume on this watch, I'm going to score it as a plus. So here we are, the end of 2 weeks. Now my personal takeaway, or should I say my discovery, is that personally, I don't think I need a GMT. Even if I set aside the sad fact that I only travel twice a year, not having a quick set date feature is a hurdle I just can't get over. That said, I still like this watch. I think it looks outstanding. I think it's competitively priced when you compare it to other Travelers GMT, and I think people who either travel a lot or who simply admire the complexity that goes into the mechanics of a Travelers GMT are going to like this watch. Now my final score here is 5 out of 5. Maybe you're surprised by that, maybe you're not. But just because a watch isn't for me personally, doesn't mean that I don't think it's a good watch. Now, everything I've said in this video has been my personal opinion, but as always, I encourage you to form your own opinions, because in the end, it is your watch collection, and your opinion is the only one that actually matters. Remember, buy whatever it is that you love. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I'll see you next time.